Hi everyone! Today I am going to talk a bit about the soft and hard palate, just a little explanation about the difference between them, which has been requested. So anything else you'd like to hear about, then do pop them in the comments. So the way you can really feel the difference between the soft and the hard palate is by using your tongue and tracing it across the roof of your mouth from front to back. So just using that at the very front, just behind your top set of teeth, till about there, maybe a little bit further back, and then you'll start to feel something a little bit more movable. So this hard palate at the very front of your mouth, and essentially, hard palate doesn't move. It is used to articulate consonants by use of the tongue. So the hard palate will never actually move to form consonants and vowels. It's the tongue actually working against it. So for example, ta 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 da 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 that's where the articulation point is. So it's the tongue doing all the work, but it's the connection to the hard palate that is making those consonants. So let's just try a couple of those out. We're going to try D first, so just da da da. Let's try that together. Da da da. So you'll notice in the consonants video I talk about not using the jaw to do that. Again, it's the articulation point is the tongue to the hard palate. Now if you go a little bit further back, as you will have felt potentially, then you can feel the soft palate. This one moves and changes the resonance of where we sing, essentially, so where the sound is resonating. So a good way of feeling whether your soft palate is lifted or not is to do what we call puffy cheeks, one of my favourite exercises. It does so much for us. So what we're going to do is have just a tiny gap in our lips, but most of the air is going to be pushed a little bit more into our cheeks. So you can hear there's still some air coming out, but there's a lot of resistance. So just try that a couple of times, just putting as much air as you can through the cheeks. So when you do that, now that you're used to how to produce that, then try and feel that space behind the lips, and you should feel a lift of something at the back. So let's just try that again, a long one this time. So for me, I'm feeling something pushing up and very slightly forward, maybe at the very back, and that is the lifting of the soft palate. So that's a really good way of firstly warming up, because it keeps the soft palate in a really good position. It's also a good way of trying to sing through some pieces if you're feeling like it's feeling a bit tense at the back. We do drop the soft palate sometimes, but as a rule, I try and think about keeping mine lifted as much as I can. Mostly because it's connected to the tongue root. So if you're ever feeling any tension under here, so under the chin, that's usually tongue root tension, and a lot of that can be connected to the soft palate. So if the soft palate is dropped, there's not really as much space for the tongue root to lift, which it should be, because we want to keep the tongue out of the throat as much as we can so our airflow can continue. So we want to try and keep that lifted as much as we can. There are a few exceptions. When we do nasal consonants, then the soft palate will be dropped. So when you are singing an N, for example, holding your nose, you know exactly where it's coming through, the nasal cavities there. So we do have the soft palate dropped for those nasal consonants. So let's just try the N together. Ready? And we're going to try holding the nose as well. So just a long N. So you can always tell when it's dropped for that one. It doesn't have a choice, otherwise you can't produce the N. The other nasal consonants that you have are the M and the NG of sing, sing. And you'll actually feel the tongue at the back is connected to the roof of your mouth or the soft palate. So that's where the tongue can become an articulation point at that with the soft palate there as well. The other times that you can drop them are, for example, some French vowels. So un songe. So you can hear that nasal twang to it. So changing from a lifted to a lowered soft palate, you'll hear oh, un songe. So one thing to be aware of, if you're going to try some of these French vowels, for example, where the soft palate is lowered, Just be aware that when the soft palate drops, if you're not really free in the throat and you're not thinking about keeping it in a good position, it can cause tongue root tension. So just be aware that that can happen when you're trying it, that if something is feeling tight or tense, that's not meant to happen. When you have a dropped soft palate in the right way, it should still feel very free, and the resonance should just be in a slightly different place. Hope that's useful. If you've got anything else you want to hear about, or you've got any challenges for me, as you've seen a few videos coming up, then do pop them in the comments. And I've got another one coming up for you on Friday. So see you then.